Revolution.
For man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
Absolutely. But from every other aspect of this, I think this was a little bit of historical stuff. For Michael Bisping, if somebody gets hurt, and then, Yoel could slide right in if something, say,
that middleweight division just is. I'm not related to any fighter. I just cover them, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get over it, right?
I mean, listen, like I said, there's no way to defend it from Yoel Romero's perspective. He's going to be livid today. I'm sure he's going to issue a statement. I'm sure his manager, Makikawa, is going to be livid as well. But, he has money. He doesn't need to do this financially. He's doing this strict for athletes. So, I mean, are we just to assume now he's not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he hasn't been in competition for, 3.5 years? I mean, we talk about guys coming off a
November
year layoff.
13. Yeah.
So what?
Okay.
So I want to ask you guys.
Guys, if he just retired off of it.
That's what I'm thinking too. A lot of it'll be like, was it a war? What's left of him in that octagon? What he said. Brandon.
Well, I'm sorry, John, that you got to work with a bunch of.
We got to move on. We got to start this deal here. Let's at least get a fight or two because the phone lines are lighting up. 866-522-2846. It looks like the show's starting off with Overeem and Hunt.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's setting the table. All right, so way tighter than he did in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
As you're gonna have, but even he's gone down before. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of nervous, Chipotle, because Texas de Brazil is a lot. But what are you gonna do? All right, so I'm putting you down for.
I'm leaning towards Hunt.
Hunt. Okay.
Yep.
How about you, Dan Tom?
I'm not going to leave you on the island, but I'm going to do.
A reach of a question. You tell me. But the desert air, a lot of fighters. But how about you? Have you ever had trouble with the desert air in Las Vegas?
I don't think so. Everything's gone well. I mean, I did the 6 weeks here.
I just, not to say that I don't think it's a good idea to just body in a certain situation.
2008 or 2009. I don't know how I ended up on this end, but I'm
done good, and I ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, you look at social media people.
Not really.
All right, Hunt and Reem. Before we went to break, do you remember what you were going to share on that?
Don't
No.
know.
All right, Mark Hunt, Dan, and go to the Rumors tab, and you can follow along. We'll also talk Khabib, Ferguson. Now I can't find the card.
Song playing when I walk into Texas State Reserve.
There you go.
You don't have headphones for John?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMAjunkie Radio Show. We're joined by John Morgan from the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan. It drops every Friday, and sometimes you get that 0.5 on Sunday.
And a half.
Depending on how much they have left, and if you have any frosty beverages laying around. Congratulations, John, on your 100th episode.
Thank you.
It's all downhill from there, bud.
Yeah, right?
Dan Tom is also joining us, and he has a podcast called Protect Your Neck. Now, I see, is there a set date that you like to drop it on, or you just... Sorry, I don't see a set date, so I just wanted to... you tell me.
Kind of unofficial. Essentially, people want me to do a podcast because they're like, the long form written, it's a really small kind of demographic I play to with that. So, we were like, well, we want to hear you kind of talk, have a different form of media. And, as a fan of podcasts, obviously, been a fan of your guys both for a long time. Yeah, it's always been something on the docket. So I finally, stopped being lazy and listened to people and just did one. And I like to record on Wednesday. I'm going to record one actually later today with Robin Black and John Ramdeen. We're going to break down some stuff. And
so like 2 times a week you're shooting for or something like that?
Yeah, 2 times a week, because kind of like MMA Roadshow, who I think I want to give them credit, setting the standard. Sunday's always been a slow content for podcasts, for MMA news, everything. And us hardcores, and especially, us who maybe, we don't follow football or other sports.
Yeah, man, you want to talk about it, right?
Yes,
share it,
And there's a certain energy. Like, it's always fun to break down the action, but when you guys are able to, like, break it down, for example, the Roadshow, kind of fresh, there's something to that. And I'm just trying to do it with my own, of course, aspect and, what I bring. And usually I'm a little roadshow ready by those after party. We call them the after party editions, and I give a warning that me and whoever I've been watching the fights with have been drinking.
A couple of cocktails.
And we go or if there's an off week and I just had goes, I like to do top 5 shows because, as we're talking about history here, guys, and you guys are perfect examples. A treasure trove of stories in the sport. It's too crazy not to touch on. So the top 5 episodes fill in the rare occasional off week we have from a UFC or a UFC card, and you get to go look back at top 5 kick KOs or top 5 MMA feuds, and it's a cool chance to reflect because this sport has really gotten old under our nose, right? It's getting its own history, I should say, at least.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I wanted to run something by you two. Goz heard me say this the other day, but I happened to watch the Countdown show. And I watched it on YouTube through the Junkie site, and I separated the two rather than the full 44 minutes. They went like 20 minutes with each of the top fights. And one thing jumped out at me on YouTube was the Ferguson Nurmagomedov YouTube. The views were like in the 330,000s, and the main event was in the 100,000. It was like double. Do you guys feel like that's the fight that's stolen the show? Ferguson said that in the conference call. Woodley tried to check him, but he didn't come over the top too hard. He just said, well, we're the title fight. Yeah. But Ferguson was like, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. Everyone's coming to watch us. We should be the main event, blah, blah, blah. Woodley said something, and then he just kept talking. He ain't far off.
No.
I mean, everyone is focused on this.
I'm personally more excited for the co-main than the main, and I don't mean that as any slight towards, Wonder Boy and Tyrant. It's a great fight. It was a fantastic fight in November, and I think it'll be a fantastic fight here as well. But I'm more excited for it, and I can support it with data, man. Just seeing the numbers from MMA Junkie, similar type stuff. When Khabib especially, man, Khabib clicks. I mean, he is definitely one of the top drawing stars in the sport, and I don't know, in my job as a reporter, I don't really deep dive into our analytics and stuff like that, but I take quick peeks at numbers and stuff. I don't know if that's an international audience that's driving it. Obviously, we know how big Russia is. What a massive country that is. I don't know if the traffic's coming largely from Russia, but it's amazing. And I'll tell you what, man, they did a special media day when we were in Brooklyn. They had a Khabib Nurmagomedov like lunch basically. It was in this old Russian restaurant, and man, the locals there, like the Russian population. It was amazing. I mean, and I know you guys have seen like the clips on YouTube or whatever. He's doing a signing or whatever over there. Like, the dude is a star.
Yeah,
I'm about his movie reviews.
Oh, the movie reviews was gold.
That was great, right? That was phenomenal.
Forget the pre-fight promo package. They're going to play at T-Mobile Arena. Just play that, please. And I second John. This is my my favorite fight of the card. I ended up doing 2,000 words on the damn thing for my summary, more than anything I wrote on anything else. So it kind of shows there. But more importantly, the analytics and that Russian aspect is really interesting because I've done some work for ACB organization, and they had a big year-end show in December over in Russia and stuff, and they're kind of like the quiet breeders of that market over there. And when I did the breakdown, I was doing it through MMA Latest, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna publish it through my normal news place like normal, and they were like, okay, we're also gonna have it through our own Russian feeds like VK and their own versions of Facebook and stuff like that. And like, trust me, it's gonna do much better. And apparently, like it killed. As far as I didn't see the raw analytics or clicks, but apparently it killed way more. The networks that they kind of pumped it through. So it's its own network over there apparently.
And anyone that fights Khabib, if you talk to them about stuff leading up to, they'll tell you, yeah, I posted this on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and fucking Russians are burying me in the comments, you know? So he does come with a following for sure.
Nick Lentz, when he fought Islam Makhachev, he's the same thing. He said, he's like, dude, the fight got booked, and he's like, I woke up the next morning, and like an Instagram picture of me like walking a dog had like 870 comments of like, F you, you're going to get your ass kicked. It's hilarious.
Kevin Lee only brought it up, remember? And the next day he said he was getting destroyed on social media.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, guys. Well, I don't want to run out of time because John has to leave us here in about 20 minutes. Dan, you good for 2 hours? You have to bail as
I
well?
can stay as long as you guys need.
All right. We also have one other guest today. things are going to get a little hectic because we'll be joined by Mirsad Bektic at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
It's a good fight too, man.
Let's go to it is because Elkins has turned a corner. You know, about 2 years ago, I would have said, man, Bektic all day. He's younger. He's a savage. He's an up-and-comer. But I really like the corner Elkins has taken. I guess, is that the main event on FS1?
It's not.
Wow.
For whatever reason, Luis Enrique.
Oh, those heavyweights?
Martin Tybura is, yeah. Which I
Okay.
think is
Yeah, you're
kind of
right.
an odd
Well, if we have
choice.
time, we'll maybe touch on that. Let's do Daniel Kelly and Rashad Evans. John, you want to go first on
Yeah,
this
I
one?
mean, listen, I think the obvious play here is Rashad Evans. I mean, we're talking about a former world champion, but I am interested in this fight. Dan Kelly gets doubted damn near every
I
time he
know.
steps into the cage.
I'm leading that charge,
Dad
too.
bod comes in there, and you're like, come on, and he keeps and dude, I was talking to the guys again at Submission Radio yesterday. I don't know if most Americans realize how big of a star this guy is back in Australia. Like, dude, everybody gets behind him because he's had a lot of success there, and he's represented the country. And I mean, people get behind him, man. He's a star. And, I mean, if you're looking for question marks, right, the question marks are around Rashad Evans. I mean, he hasn't been active. What is the cage rest going to do to him? He's going to 185 pounds. What's that going to do to him? So, I mean, there's question marks. Yeah, everything. I mean, so all the question marks are around Rashad Evans. So if somebody's going to tell me, hey, man, I think Dan Kelly might catch Rashad Evans slipping, there's a lot of evidence that could be possible. That said, Rashad's Rashad. I mean, I think he's the better athlete. I think he's the better fighter. I think he's the right pick here. But, dude, I'm not going in here saying, well, Kelly has no chance, because I feel like I've said that about 4 or 5 other times in his UFC career, and he's proved me wrong.
And Evans is also carrying, emotion. You heard that when the interview, just getting cleared to fight was an emotional thing for him. So he's getting a little up there in age, and I guess just going through all these trials and tribulations over the past few years and not being healthy. You can tell, man. This guy, I think he'll have it right because he comes from being a wrestler and a competitor and a world champion. But there are some intangibles to be concerned about with Evans. That said, I'm going with Evans as well. I'll even keep it as simple as Evans. Usually the wrestling does trump the judo, but Ronda Rousey proved for a few years that wasn't the case. And Daniel Kelly, I'm a fan of his judo, honestly. I think there's a lot of judokas out there that come in and just leave it at the door, but he's used it before and he's used it wisely. But I think Rashad Evans is going to be too much, so I'll echo what John said. How about you, Dan?
I'm probably going to be on an island here, man. This is one of those fights where you come in so sure of one guy, as I came in so sure of Rashad Evans. He still is the justified favorite here. Furthermore, even if it's a simply striking Rashad, a not complete Rashad, I think the striking Rashad should win this fight on paper. Take it back even further. Early, young, raw Rashad, who just wrestled, who didn't get these Sean Salmon knockouts. I think that Rashad beats Dan Kelly on paper. And I've bet against Dan Kelly the last 3 times, so much so that my recommended parlay pieces were all 3 of his opponents. So I'm sorry for that, guys.
Are you about to go with Kelly?
Yes, but I'll tell you why.
K-E-double-L-Y. All right, go ahead.
You know that one, Dan?
Mickey Mouse Club, right?
No.
No?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
A little bit.
Saved by the Bell?
No. Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. Wow.
Yeah, remember when they're watching that Irish show? How's
Oh
it go?
yeah, that's right. That's right.
K-E-double-L-Y.
Slipping already.
I just won't try to save myself
Continue.
with Christopher Walken impression. I'm going to abandon ship on that real quick and go to Dan Kelly. There's facts behind it though, not because I've been burned. When I do break down this match, from the simple aspect, not that I think either guy's going to submit each other, because I think Rashad Evans, first of all, is really underrated grappling, especially when you go back and watch. We forget he's one of the best transitional grapplers at MMA, from transitioning to his strikes to takedowns, like in the Rampage fight, to his just transitions in grappling early on. And Kelly is a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well as judo, so he's really underrated there. We saw against Carlos Jr. Unless this match gets later and Rashad gets tired, I don't see it going to the ground. I see it staying on the feet. That's been Rashad's propensity, but that's kind of where the problem is. Rashad's been a counter fighter, and his game is heavily reliant on timing and speed. And as we know, that is the first attribute to go. And we've seen a troubling trend where we haven't seen Rashad get a win against, a defeated Chael Sonnen. And I'm not trying to take a shot at Chael, but from what Chael's admitted to, stuff that's happened since then, you go back and watch that fight, and there wasn't, it was a good Rashad against a good, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Rashad, but I mean that is his last win. And more importantly, on the facts, is the left hand. Okay, whether we're talking about a southpaw or an orthodox fighter, we're talking about Lyoto's crosses, we're talking about Ryan Bader's jab, or we're talking about Glover Teixeira's left hook. Left hands have always been troubling Rashad. He likes to load to his right side because he keeps his right hand loaded, and he relies on that head movement and speed, which again is troubling for its own reason, but he slips back to that home position really hard, and that runs him right in line with left hands, and that's been a problem throughout his career, all the iterations of Rashad. And aside from Michael Bisping, from any fighter from any stance in the middleweight division, Dan Kelly throws the most left hands, and they're very deceptively accurate and active. He'll push it like Conor McGregor using the Dutch hand traps, or he'll unabashedly throw it over as he makes his entries. So essentially, if Rashad doesn't knock him out, he's going to have to depend on the judges scoring a fight for a counterfighter, which has been a troubling proposition. If it ends on the ground, whether by TKO or submission, I give the edge to Kelly there. So essentially, this fight, you have to tell me, like, if I didn't watch it, you said it ended by knockout, then I'd be like, okay, for sure, Rashad won. But when I start looking at things on paper, I'm like, you know what? I'm putting my name on it. I'm standing by it. This isn't just a willy-nilly pick. I'm standing by Dan Kelly here.
I think aside from being a counter striker, he's also more just reluctant to engage.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what his strikes are per round, but they can't be one of the highest out there.
And he relies on getting his confidence.
You could just see it in his face, too. He's like, I don't know, it's like he's mentally checking out. Like against Nogueira, I think he mentally checked out because he didn't think Nogueira could stop the takedown.
Yes.
And the little Nog is real good at that. But in other fights, you just see him chugging along, and the clock's going from 5 to 4 to 3, and I'm like, when are you going to throw? The offense has to start. Yeah. That does make it scary for a guy like myself who's backing him. All right, we'll put you down for Kelly. It goes.
Dan, we could probably record another podcast because I will be on the island with you.
Wow.
This is the problem. John alluded to it. There are so many question marks that are just surrounding Rashad Evans right now that even if you put those aside, you still get a Rashad Evans who used to lead the dance and no longer does. That is my problem, is he's letting people dictate where the fights are going to go, and I just can't stand behind that guy right now. The only thing that I can say is a positive for Rashad, and it's kind of a silver lining because it was a shitty situation, but at least he somewhat went through the camp last time. He knows what his body's like at 185. He went through that process a little bit. Maybe that will help him here going into this fight, but again, I just keep going back to a Rashad Evans who does not want to lead the dance, and that's just problems for me. So I'm going to go with Daniel Kelly.
All right, and the odds on that, by the way, were Evans at minus 230, Kelly at plus 180.
I believe it.
Good chance there to cash in if you want to include him on your parlay. Vanata came in at 305 and Tamor plus 250.
One more quick add into that point. That intangible, which, by the way, Rashad's looking spectacular if you follow on social media posts, from the pad work to the shape. But that intangible is troublesome because his original opponent, Tim Kennedy, was also in shape prior, coming off, a layoff granted, but we saw that multiple camp and that up and down mess with even the most veteran and mentally tough of fighters. So that's an intangible that could play either way. So it's going to be interesting.
Now you're making me think about GSP also on that layoff. All right, guys. Last two fights here. We got Khabib Nurmagomedov minus 190, the favorite. Tony Ferguson plus 155. I guess I'll go first on this one. You want to go first, John?
Oh, well, I didn't want to steal your thunder there. I'm just saying I love this fight, man.
I'm going like this.
Well, I'll say, because, I was talking about a little bit before you got here, George. I'm not going to lie. I'm flipping a little bit on this. I might change my pick tomorrow and then the next. For me, I started out with Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? Guy is a beast, man. I mean, everything that's said about him is true. You don't get to 24-0. People saying, well, his level of competition. Come on, man. You don't get to 24-0 without being a beast. And the way he physically dominates people and just, his confidence is insane. His grappling, his wrestling, his top game, the ground and pound is just vicious. How about those clips? Those clips are amazing of him saying, you got to give up. I need title fight. Talking to Dana during the middle of the fight. I have a funny story about Khabib. One of his first UFC fights, he came back to the corner after the second round of one of his fights, and he looked at me on press row, and he was like, and he made the signals with his hands. He's like, 2-0 me, right? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, oh my God, like this dude has the presence of mind, like in a fight, to ask the media if they think he's up 2 rounds to none. So his awareness, everything, it's amazing. But dude, Tony Ferguson, I feel like if you were to design a guy that's capable of beating Khabib Nurmagomedov, it would probably be Tony Ferguson. The takedown defense that he has, the fact that, even when he does get taken down, like his ability to scramble back up and just the body positioning that he uses is so weird to try to hold on to him.
Sometimes he attacks with the Darces, too.
It's insane, and then his striking is improving, his pace, and his cardio, obviously that's incredible. And, dude, the drive and the focus that he has right now, man, he's in a zone right now, man. He's in a place. So I'm still leaning towards Khabib Nurmagomedov right now, but I'm telling you, I love this fight. This might be one of my favorite fights of the whole year, at least for what's on tap right now and what I can envision. I mean, I am loving this fight, and I feel like this is going to be a battle. I feel like Tony Ferguson has everything it takes to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov, and so I'm starting to – that pendulum is swinging back the other way in my mind, but for right now I'm going to stick with Khabib Nurmagomedov, but I am pumped for this fight.
How about you guys?
Well, I, too, have been going back and forth on this, and the one thing that I look at is – if you look at Khabib's career, there's a difference between being stunned and being hurt. And he's been stunned a little bit here and there, but he's never really been hurt. He almost has no kryptonite, okay? The thing about Tony Ferguson, when I'm breaking him down, I'm saying, man, the punches, the clinch, the knees, the kicks, some of that's going to go away in this fight. I think he would be a fool to be throwing knees and kicks, feeding a guy that wants to grab those and take you down and pummel you. If you're going to take that away from his game, it's going to hurt. So I feel like Khabib at some point will catch a leg or a knee, take him down. And I think once it gets to that point, I think we're all going to go, oh. So I got Khabib Nurmagomedov in this fight.
Okay. Are any of you guys picturing Tony taking Khabib down? Or is that just the one thing, like when you break down fights, that's the option that's not going to happen?
I wouldn't say he's going to take him down, but it's kind of showing my hand. I do say that not only do I think Ferguson's going to win, I think he's going to do it by submission, that Darce choke you were talking about, sir. And I can elaborate on as to why. First of all, I'm a big fan of Khabib Nurmagomedov as a wrestling-based grappler who loves wrist feeds and wrist riding and leg riding. Like, oh my goodness, Khabib's positional awareness is something to behold. I love it, and he's justified favorite here, without a doubt. When people are pointing to Ferguson's fight with Danny Castillo as a clear path, like, look, he was controlled here and this and that. Now, not only will I tell you that that's just a small sample size of the whole big picture, and that was over 3 years ago. We see some fighters learn and we see some fighters don't. And I was talking to John about this, and I think Tony Ferguson, the theory is, I think he was kind of working his style out because we haven't seen it since then. I mean, in his last fight, we saw him fight a disciplined fight at altitude for 5 rounds at a world championship level.
I
mean, so he kind of
So
proved
impressive.
that. But what the style that I'm talking about is, I think he's a presenter, and that's what I'll end this breakdown is my theory on him being a presenter. Now, a presenter is something a magician does, okay? A magician's not doing magic. The real magic happens when the magician can set an environment for his trick to work. In poker, right out here, there's poker tables. The World Series of Poker, the final table, it's not necessarily the best poker players. It's the best presenters. It's the guys that were able to present that they had something or present that they didn't have something. We would see this make its way in MMA through Rickson Gracie and Zulu in the 1980s, presenting bad position, using pace to outwork his opponent. Late 90s would spawn Nogueira and Pride, where he didn't have the wrestling to get his jiu-jitsu, so what did he do? He would shoot shitty shots, pardon my French, and dive for his deep half game and get it going, because he would present you, here's a victory you can win. You're defending my takedown, when in theory, the big game is, no, I'm actually getting you to grapple with me, sucker. And Damian Maia would use that same thing in the UFC 198 barn burner, Matt Brown, saying, oh, I'm in a bad position, or what is perceived as a bad position. And that's what Tony Ferguson does. And I don't mean to get, if a tree falls in the forest, is anybody there to land? But is it really a bad position if Tony is the one presenting it? For example, a move that I like to do from mount, but Tony does it from almost anywhere. We saw him finish Lando Venata, okay? The front headlock, he works particularly well from the front headlock, but it's the way he sets it up. First of all, Lando wasn't even grappling with him. Lando was mid-roll of punches, and Tony snatched him up, and he snatched up a guillotine. Because he wanted the guillotine? No, because he knew that it would force Lando de Venata to fight hands, and when you fight hands on a guillotine, you inherently open up space between your lats and your triceps, allowing for his arm to adjust in for the Darce, and you see him do this like clockwork. And anytime Khabib's great. He's great at taking down, and he crashes distance hard, but if you notice, he never takes a guy down on his first takedown. Not because he can't, not because he's not good, it's because he's one of the best wrestling chainers ever. I mean, he can go for a low single and come up and hit an Uchimata judo throw. But the point is, he's navigating that mid-torso range, and whenever you're navigating mid-torso range, even against the fence where your hips can't even back up, a guy like Ferguson with long arms and acuity to circle out and the wrestling he has, you're giving him a front headlock anytime you engage him in the Khabib strength. Where Khabib has to go, he has to go for the kill zone. And I'm not even talking about the counter-strike kill zone for the reason that I picked Michael Johnson against Khabib. People call me crazy. I still stand by the pick because I said Michael Johnson is going to counter Khabib with that left hand, and he clipped him multiple times. So, I mean, it didn't go out, it didn't go for him. But for these reasons, Tony is a presenter. I think he's going to present. I think he's going to finish.
Wow. Okay.
I like it, man. I can see it happening. That's why I keep going back and look. It's exactly what you're saying. The positions that they're going to be in, I'm like, those are strength positions for Tony Ferguson. You know what I mean? It's like that could totally unfold that way. It's
That's what makes the fight so great, though.
I've
Look at all
gone
the
back
different
and forth as
options
well.
that we've come with to finish the fight.
I've gone back and forth as well. Right now, I'm sitting in Tony Ferguson mode. And again, I gained a lot from just watching the Venata fight, watching a few others. His ability to transition, from whether he was striking with Venata. I mean, there was a couple times where it looked like fucking capoeira, man. These guys were like in sync in the strikes they were throwing. But I really liked how a couple times as he was defending the takedown, a lot of people just sprawl and then or maybe get some underhooks, and he was looking for ways to attack. He's very creative, and my thing is if he can either he's been talking about his wrestling a lot, and I don't know if his ego is going to say, hey, look, I can prove something. I'm going to take down Khabib, and let's see how Khabib can deal with me on top or me maybe taking his back. That'll be interesting. Maybe he'll want to strike and maybe capitalize the same way Michael Johnson did. It's just that Johnson's so polished. He's so fast. And no disrespect to Tony, he's just not as polished and as fast. But it's going 25 minutes, and I think that's the reason I went Ferguson. Not to say that Khabib can't do it. It's just that I think what Ferguson did in Mexico City was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's literally like 100 miles an hour the whole time, whereas other guys, even the guys that have great cardio, even Nick Diaz against Carlos Condit in the 5th round would slow down and get a 3rd win and come back strong, but still he was slowing down. Seems like Ferguson doesn't do it. So just to wrap things up, I'm just going to go with Tony Ferguson, but I think it's going to be a decision. I don't know that if he can finish him, but if he does, I'm calling the Darce choke as well. Of course, that's just what his strength is. So I'll ride with you on this one, Dan Tom.
And the only guarantee I'll say is this, is no matter who wins, this thing's going to be so bloody that they're going to need Harvey Keitel's character from Pulp Fiction to come clean it up.
With a hose?
The wolf, yeah.
You sending the wolf? All right. Shit, that's all you had to say. Last fight, Stephen Thompson and Tyron Woodley, the main event. 160. Thompson, wow, it's going up. The favorite in this fight versus Tyron Woodley plus 130. Wow. Goes, you want to go first?
Well, I think the reason it's going up is because if you watch that fight, he had the momentum at the end of that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Going into this fight, I still believe he has the momentum. This is my problem, is if you watch the fight, yeah, it was a draw, but one guy was closer to finishing the fight than the other, and that was Tyron Woodley. He came very close to stopping that fight.
Both with hands, and the guillotine was pretty good, too.
Yeah, 2 times. And Stephen Wonderboy, he's talked about that. He said how close it was. That is the reason why I'm going to go with Tyron Woodley. I feel like he's just going to find his range, and Wonderboy gets clipped, man, quite a bit. So I feel like you can't take too many of those from Tyron.
I'm going with Tyron Woodley, but the only thing that scares me is things I've seen in the Shields fight, McDonald fight, and the 5th round of his fight with Thompson, and that's just the lack of a presence, of awareness of where he's at. I mean, this is for a world title. He fought so hard. He said 10 years to get there, and he's not going down with a fight. He actually thought he had it in the bag before round 5. I don't remember the judges' scorecards off the top of my head, but I know a lot of people either had it 2-2 or, one way or another, but there's just that uncertainty. You can't think that you have it because of, you knocked them down in the 1st round, you did this other stuff. There was some rounds that were close, and you just can't do that. So as a gambler, it scares me to go, let me do Woodley, even though I like, chasing down some underdogs and getting that big payday. But I'm going to go with Woodley because of that power, and I think he sat there and probably it had to resonate with him. Holy shit, that was not Tyron Woodley in the 5th round. I cannot do that. So he hopefully pushed himself a little bit harder in this camp. And, he just throws a little bit more, man. Because when he does, oh, my God, he's a beast. He didn't throw as many leg kicks as I thought he was going to throw. That said, he still walked out with the title in a draw. So I'm going with Woodley on this one. Dan.
I had Thompson for the original one, and I was originally leaning toward Woodley going into this one, and maybe that was because of my Kempo karate bias, and I was like, this or that. But honestly, breaking down the facts and looking at it, I am going with Thompson on this one. Kind of heavy in speculation. I don't think we saw a great Stephen Thompson that night, and I don't think he's the kind of guy to say so. I know there was kind of nods and people asking him about the Weidman thing, and he definitely wasn't taking that out from his answers, but I suspect that it did bother him, that there was some genuineness there. But that all aside, that's kind of speculation. More into the techniques. Rematches come down to adjustments. It comes down to who can make the better adjustments, and I simply not only think Stephen Thompson can make more, which on paper that's kind of the obvious answer, he's going to have more adjustments, but I think they're going to be the appropriate ones. Woodley's adjustments, for example, two things: more leg kicks, more wrestling. Right? That's what
More
everybody was
wrestling,
calling for in
yeah.
the beginning. And the 2 times he used the leg kick, which was really rare in wrestling, he was super successful. So I expect him to use both those things. But I don't know if the availability for the leg kicks or the takedowns are going to be there, because I don't know if Thompson's going to be orthodox again. Now, he's always switched stance, but he's also mainly operated from a southpaw 90% of that time, because his main kicking leg is that right leg, and he likes to use it as a jab. He simply has more options. Now, it looked like in watching the footage, he tried to take a page out of Rory McDonald's book. He went orthodox, and he crowded Woodley and kept that pressure. The problem is he didn't put the volume that he normally does, and Woodley was able to counter at crucial points of the fight. So I think he might actually go back to how he was fighting before with Rory McDonald or Johnny Hendricks, keeping that outside foot awareness that you can go back that whole 25 minutes. It's beautiful how he takes Rory's jab away by just simply replacing his foot on the outside each time. And the same footwork with Johnny Hendricks, even though Johnny was a southpaw, I think that shift that Thompson used in that fight is going to come to play here. It's called opening the gate in traditional martial arts, where you step off to your side from a southpaw stance, and it puts you right in line as an orthodox fighter to see right into your opponent's ear, and you can fire that cross down. That's what he hit Johnny Hendricks with. And considering Woodley doesn't have a lot of offense he presents from his left side, it's usually just kind of paws and parries, I think Stephen Thompson's going to abuse that side in this fight and make the proper adjustments.
Thompson, putting you down for Thompson, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting
John?
because I feel so much of what you're saying is correct, but when I look at the adjustments, I feel like I think they're going to favor Woodley. I favored Woodley going into the first fight. I do think that he'll probably use a more wrestling-based game plan this time around. I think he should. And the other thing I think is, too, is like Wonder Boy is such a tricky fighter, right? Because how many guys out there are the way he is? And I think Woodley having the ability of relying on that 25 minutes he had with him the first time around, I think that's going to provide helpful, because I think the first time you're in there with him, you're trying to figure him out a little bit. His movement, his range, his style, it's so unique. And so, I leaned Woodley the first time. I actually scored it for Woodley the first time around. But obviously the last round for Wonder Boy is a little bit scary. Again, to me, this is a fight that I go back and forth on. I went back and forth on it the first time around too. But I'm gonna stick with Tyron Woodley. Plus, he'll call me out if I don't. So I got
All right, so a quick recap here. John is going with Hunt, Lando Veneta, Evans, Khabib, and T. Wood. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Dan, almost the complete opposite. He's got Reem. We all agree on Lando. He's got Kelly, Ferguson, and Thompson. And then I have Reem, Lando, Evans, Ferguson, and Woodley. You have Hunt, Lando, Kelly, Khabib, and Woodley.
As we were saying earlier, I mean, isn't that just the mark of a great card, dude? When you're spread across the board, you got people that like literally all we do is watch fights, and we can't agree on who's supposed to win.
That's the most spread I've seen it in a long time, too.
Amazing.
So that's how much potential.
And we're not even touching on the prelims, man. This card is actually good, man. I mean, you go all the way down. It's funny you're talking about two like kind of young prospects or whatever, like the Paul Craig Tyson Pedro fight. Mm-hmm. 2 undefeated guys. Yeah. They've got their national representations behind them. Normally when a guy is tied to a market, you kind of try to give him a little push, because obviously he's helping things grow there. That's a fun fight, man.
Elkins Bektic.
Yeah. Elkins Bektic is good. Alcantara versus Luke Sanders is a good fight, man. Luke Sanders is a tough up-and-coming kid
as well.
Dude, so man, this card on paper, hopefully we're not jinxing it, but I plan to be incredibly entertained on Saturday night.
Thanks for joining us. I know you have to get going.
I do.
It's
Ultimate Media Day.
Ultimate Media Day
over at T-Mobile. So I'm going to head over there, and so stay tuned to MMA Junkie. We'll have the full coverage.
Follow him on Twitter at MMA Junkie John, and of course subscribe to his podcast, The MMA Roadshow with John Morgan. Thanks, John. We're going to go to commercial,
Thanks,
and Dan, you're sticking around, right?
Yeah, sure.
When we come back, we'll talk to Mirsad Bektic.
Hey, idiot! Yeah, you. Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
All right, we're back. Danny, did you get a call? Actually, he just said he called and no one's answering.
Did you remember what I just said over the break? That
No,
happened,
but that hadn't happened yet because he was just typing out when you were talking to me. So please try again, I guess. He'll be ready for us. Mirsad Bektic will join us here on MMA Junkie Radio. And Scott from Utah, we will take your call. Dan's got a podcast called Protect Your Neck, and it drops on iTunes, shooting for a couple times a week. Says Wednesday is his day, so look out for it. Subscribe, give him a review, because that really helps things out. And, folks, a lot of you did that for our podcast, those reviews on iTunes. It just helps the algorithm. I got about 10 of them that if it wasn't such a busy week, we'll go in there and read them because that's kind of our policy. You know, no matter what, you give us 1 or 5 stars, we'll read them all. Just tell us what we're doing wrong so we can improve if we don't get all 5 stars. But everyone's been responding with 5 stars, and it really means a lot. It helps the show tremendously. So the same way you do it for us, do it for our friends. John's got his podcast, the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan, and, of course, Cold Coffee, Kenny Hathaway, who co-hosted with us the other day. He is his partner in crime. And Dan, is yours a solo effort, or do you have a co-host?
Mine was originally to be a solo effort. I had some people reach out, but I just kind of want to do like Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast where I can kind of come on and chime in. But it's kind of organically grown, as you saw with the top 5 episodes, and knowing guys like you and stuff, it's so hard not to want to pick your brain. So yeah, solo or guest, we change it up.
But you don't have an actual co-host. It's not like George and Goes or John and Kenny. Like it's Dan and somebody's just Dan and a guest.
In fact, yeah, on my Twitter homepage at the PYM podcast, if you want to follow it on Twitter, it just says hosted by at the MM Analyst, which is me, and home to many more. Because I'm gonna have my friends on, whether it's Goes or Robin Black and Ramdean on or later, or Jordan Killian from MMA Latest, or whoever. It doesn't matter. Like I was telling Goes that. I'm following the example you guys set. You think you guys set a really good example where you come clean with your biases, say, hey, we know we're media, but we're also fanboys at heart. And I think I really respect that line because I think you guys play it well. I think it's a good example.
Yeah, we have no choice. And by the time we realized what we were doing wrong, we were like 200 shows in, so we were like, let's just ride with this. But yeah, looking back, if we were to start today, I don't know, maybe Dan wouldn't give us, Dan, our editor, chief, maybe he wouldn't give us that leeway, but I think he just said, those guys are Muppets, let them do their thing. So we just do our thing. But you have the same thing as us. You have all these years at Extreme Couture. How are you not going to come clean about that? Hey, let's talk about that in just a sec. We got to talk to Mirsad Bektic. He has called in, and he's going to be fighting Darren Elkins at UFC 209. It's going to be a great fight. What's going on, Mirsad?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George and Goes, and we also have Dan Tom from Flow Combat. Pleasure to have you on, sir. Feeling good after that shower?
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's nice to be on you guys' show again.
Did you take a bath or a shower?
Very refreshed. No, shower, nice full shower.
All right, so you're not at the hot salt baths just yet, huh?
No, I take a hot bath every night, but it's nice and relaxing. It's nothing too crazy.
Oh, every night, even when you're not in camp, you'll take a hot bath?
Yeah, once in a while. But usually about 4 weeks before a fight, I'll start taking a hot bath on the weekends. Around Fridays or Saturdays, and then once I get to fight week, it's usually every night.
But it's more to relax, or does it assist with your recovery? Because it'd be the opposite of an ice bath, or is it assist with weight? Managing your weight.
Yeah, it's kind of both. It's a good way to sweat, and it's also a nice way to relax before bed.
Interesting.
I'm actually going to try that tonight.
Are you really?
Yeah. Then I'll jump in a cold shower after that hot bath. Just cool off, and you feel very refreshed.
Do you do the ice baths?
Yeah, I plan on doing one today, actually.
Do you go in there like a gangster, like Tony Ferguson? He just went in there and shut his mouth for 10 minutes? Or are you whining and complaining and asking Dolce, can I get out early?
I'm the biggest gangster. I was going there for 25 minutes.
I love it.
At 40 degrees. We have one at ATC, so I can. A cold shower is easy for me. Cold ice bath is easy for me. I think it's more hard to be in the furnace, as to say.
Right. And by the way, I'm busting balls.
I think
I'd be one of those
bad.
whiners and complainers myself. I think I've tried it at 60, and I wasn't liking it too much. So I can only imagine at 50 and everything else, it must be brutal.
46 is my favorite. 46, 48. I've done 42. I've 25 minutes at 42 before, so it's not an issue for me.
Mirsad Bektic is fighting Darren Elkins this Saturday at UFC 209. Look, it's too late to do anything about it, but man, you and Elkins should be on the fucking main card, in my opinion. You guys are two great fighters at 145 pounds, and you both done the work. What are you gonna do? It's too late to change things around now. But this is a fight people should pay for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people are getting a treat on Fox Sports 1, but Fox Sports 1 is just in general, just to be on this card is it's a huge honor and a privilege to be on it. It's showcasing the best talent from the main event, from the co-main event to Fox Sports 1 with me and Darren Elkins. So yeah, people are in for a real treat, and it's gonna be I plan on making it the main event, so I'm excited.
Mirsad, at the beginning of the year, we do a show where we do predictions on what we feel the year will go like. One of my predictions was by the end of the year, you would be fighting for a title. Where do you feel like a win in this fight would put you? And do you agree with my prediction?
Of course I agree with your prediction. It's a great prediction.
Isn't it?
I like your prediction. But, I mean, this fight puts me, I believe, top 10.
Top 10, all right.
Top 10.
Now, one thing that we've been talking about a little bit here, and I don't know if you look at these type of things, but we're in Vegas. It's the fight capital of the world. We look at the odds.
Sure.
And the odds in this fight, we feel like it's although I did pick you to win the fight, I feel like it's a very close matchup. I think it's a tough matchup. Can you give your thoughts on that? Are the odds anything you take a look at? And if so, do you agree with them?
Honestly, I haven't even looked at the odds at all. I really don't pay attention to those things. I just focus on myself and being the best that I can be, and that's what I'm focused on. And going Saturday is just showcasing the best Mirsad possible.
All right. Dan Tom from Flow Combat also in our studio. What do you have for Mirsad?
Hey, Mirsad, I guess I just got a question about maybe more of a mentality. For example, I'm somebody who struggled and kind of still struggle with some ACL, PCL, and MCL issues, and now I'm excited because I finally get to get back in the gym and roll. But there's that mental thing that I'm kind of feeling. I've heard fighters recovering from injury speak about, where like now I'm comfortable with leg locks, but just to be safe, I'm tapping when someone goes for that leg and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, you've worked well past those stages because you came back from your injury and you look great in your last fight. But and I'm sure you felt great going into that. You and your team around you wouldn't put you in a position if you weren't comfortable. But Mirsad, is there a level of confidence that's grown even higher since then, mentality-wise, in regards to what your body can do and how you can bounce back?
Only, I feel like I'm definitely a lot tougher just from going through the ACL. I mean, I feel like I was tough before, and I was confident in that. But, with my, when I was in Nebraska and I met Doak Ostrich, who ran my recovery, and now is my training coordinator. He's I really look up to him, and I appreciate a lot he's done for me as far as just leading and guiding me. Just with his mindset, he's a very tough guy, and I've just been very consistent in my hard work. If anything ever, when you work this hard as I do, things are gonna ache, things are gonna be sore and hard, and just following the schedule that he has in place for me, which is not an easy schedule, and I've been very consistent in that, and I'm very confident that I can do anything. I've experienced everything that I can experience in the gym and on the field, in all my workouts. So I feel like I'm very mentally strong and just ready to go in there and give it my best. And I expect the best.
That sounds like a great answer. It actually reminds me of a GSP. But that's great. That's great that you're taking it as a learning experience.
What did GSP said? What did GSP say?
Just hearing fighters, just taking a learning experience from it and really putting in the work and discipline and taking it serious like a job. The way you're speaking about it almost made it sound like a job, which is a good thing. It shows that you were taking the right steps and being serious, and that's the feeling that I got from George St. Pierre as far as that comparison. So it's probably a good thing, but.
No, definitely. I mean, that's definitely what it. I mean, that's. I've always had that mentality. You know, I've never treated it like. I think a lot of guys treat it as a hobby, or
yeah.
You know, maybe they're. I mean, because in general, we're technically our own bosses. There's nobody that can make us do anything. You know, nobody can make us go to the gym. But you know, some days you're gonna wake up and not feel like going. So I've just I've been more consistent, and you know, I've been really. I've kind of become obsessed with it. I mean, all my time that I don't spend at the gym, I spend thinking about it and just working my craft outside of the gym as well, and just studying it and shaving things off and cleaning up my technique and just getting better every day.
Mirsad, would you say that right now you can beat Holloway and Aldo? Like, are you ready for the winner? Because those guys are going to unite the belt and the interim belt, and so they'll be looking for guys to face. And, you know, there's Lamas out there and Edgar and a few others. And, of course, you're talking about that by the end of the year you could be ready. So at this moment in time, do you still need to get better to beat those two, whoever wins? Or do you feel like you're already there? It's just a matter of time before you get your shot?
I mean, that's it's a kind of a different question, but I mean, yeah, I feel like I can beat anybody in the division. But as far as, I mean, can I beat them now? Yeah, I could say I can beat them now. But when that time, after this fight, I mean, I'm getting better daily. I mean, right now, I'm better today. I'm better than I was yesterday. So I always have a mentality of I can get better. I'm always open-minded. I listen to what people suggest to do, and I try it. And if it works for me, it works for me. And if it doesn't, then I just let it go, and I keep getting better. So, I mean, when that time comes, I'm gonna be better than I'm gonna be Saturday night, and next year I'll be twice as good as hopefully I am this year. So I believe you can.
Go ahead.
You can't just be stagnant.
Right. Okay. You were with Dolce for this camp?
Yeah, I've been with Dolce since my UFC debut.
Oh, just making sure that you guys still have the relationship going on. Last question I want to ask you was, has Dolce ever prepared something and you go, man, get out of here with that? Like, he does some really, really good food, but has he ever just one time shocked you where you just go, no, we got to do something else. This is terrible.
As far as eating, as far as a dish?
Yeah, like a dish.
No, I can't recall that ever. I mean, generally, I like, especially my off-season diet, because I mean, I'm on a diet pretty much all year round. So my off-season diet, I really like it because I can eat a lot more carbs and calories. So I love those foods. But I mean, in general, I just do what I gotta do. I mean, boiled eggs and spinach and things like that with no salt, of course, are not there's really not too much taste in it, but as far as it goes, at the end of the day, it's food, and I'm just grateful I can eat it.
All right. Just to be fair, just to, my mom I love her dearly. I probably love my mom more than you love Dolce, and my mom's made food for me before that I didn't like, so I was hoping he'd throw him under the bus. And Dolce's a good friend of ours, so it's all playful, But I was hoping Bektic would go, oh, dude, there was this one time he presented this dish. It was so bad I almost threw him on his head, but it didn't happen.
No, I mean, I can't. Honestly, I can't really say. I usually don't complain too much at all about food, except the portions. But I mean, especially this camp, this especially fight week, I'm very surprised with what I've been able to eat as far as meals wise goes and snacks. I'm eating 3 times a day. You could say 4 to 5 with snacks. So it's been very nice.
My man, thank you so much for doing the interview on Fight Week. Good luck on Saturday. We'll be tuning in.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
All right, you too. All right, folks, that's Mirsad Bektic fighting at UFC 209, and we'll be back after this break to take Scott from Utah's call, and then we'll close up shop. Bulldog debut.
Don't tease me.
They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Goes and Dan, are you more excited for Khabib versus Ferguson or to take Scott from Utah's call? He's been holding for 43 minutes, by the way.
I would probably go with Scott from Utah.
Simpsons intro, Scott from Utah, Khabib Ferguson.
You both are liars. You both want to see that fight. Scott's just a regular dude. There's nothing great about him. Let's just get to it. What's up, Scott?
Oh, come on, man. Jesus Christ. Dogging me out in the last 5 minutes of the show, huh?
Sorry, dog. What's up? Okay,
George,
hey, Scott, be honest. Be honest.
Did you ever get a car?
Scott, would you ever how about if somebody... You saying I'm cranky because I don't have my car? But, Scott, be honest. If somebody said, hey, you want to listen to the best of George and Goes or Protect Your Net podcast? Oh, by the way, Ferguson and Khabib's about to start. You would watch that fight, right? Or are you going to throw ours on and say, hold that fight. We'll watch that after I hear the podcast episode.
It's Nermy and Ferguson, that's for sure.
Exactly. Man. Game, set, match. What's up, man?
Hey, I know you guys made your picks earlier, but is there a chance with that Hunt and Overeem fight, given what Hunt's doing with the UFC, suing him and all that, he might come out and not give a shit. If Overeem gets him down on the ground, might he tap earlier instead of fighting it? You know?
I'll tell you what.
I don't think so.
You guys want to do 3 minutes of overtime?
Orale.
Okay. Just so we can answer the question appropriately. Because we talked about it earlier, actually. He does have a lot going on. But what brought him back is when he realized, well, what am I going to do? These guys pay me well. I'm in my 40s. I have 5 kids. I think he's got 5 kids. And I'm at that apex where I can headline cards. I can do this. I can do that. So I think he found himself backed into a corner. You know how the UFC's always got one thing on their side, and that's time. You can hold out, but you become 31. Next thing you know, you're 34 or 37, and that's it. You can't do what you used to do. So that being said, I think he understands the value of staying with the UFC and winning within the UFC. And then I think losing the Ed, he lost some steam, whether you want to call it or not. It was a no contest. Not doing great against Lesnar. I think he wants to come back from him. So I think we're going to see the best Hunt possible. But I'll tell you what, thanks to Bektic, Mirsad Bektic, thanks to Amanda Cooper, John, and Dan, and we're going to do a quick overtime in 5 seconds.
All those hopes down the drain. Fever, Las Vegas turning day into nighttime, turning night into daytime. If you see it once, you'll never be the same.
You guys are clear for overtime.
All right, so guys, how about you? What do you think? Is it going to be the best Hunt possible, or... I think once they enter the cage, a lot of it gets left behind. I honestly believe that. You may hear it in the post-fight press conference. Somebody go, what happened in there? And you may go, well, I had these intangibles in the lawsuit. I think at that point, though, it becomes an excuse. I really think that once you're in there, even if you're 90% Mark Hunt, you're still 90% Mark Hunt. Sometimes you may be physically 90% Mark Hunt versus 100, or mentally 90% Mark Hunt, but you're still a dangerous opponent. And don't think for one moment that Alistair's coming in at 100% either. He's probably coming in at 90% Alistair Overeem too. So I think both of them bring something, to the octagon. And so I just don't want to read too much into it. Whatever's your pick, whatever you feel, I think you should go with. The intangibles can make a difference, but I've seen many fighters also clear intangibles.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Hunt's weird because we haven't seen him with his shirt off, and there's usually not too many pics of that when you're kind of like perusing through social media to see how a guy's looking up to his fight. But that being said, we've seen Mark Hunt in shape and out of shape, and you almost feel stupid saying either one. Like, this guy's in shape. This guy's out of shape. It's both kind of like, oh, okay, all right. And but he is another part of the intangible is worth looking at, the court stuff aside, because I was proven wrong on that with the Lesnar thing. Lesnar came in and smashed shop, even though he didn't have court intangibles. It was different kind of contract and different intangibles there. But Hunt isn't going to Thailand, or he's not traveling for his camps like he normally has in the past, whether it was ATT or a Tiger Muay Thai for the Bigfoot Silva 2 camp. Yeah, that Galeb Brothers BJJ in Australia.
And
where
he
was
even
last
did
time.
one month here at Extreme, right? Before the Lesnar fight?
That was weird because when I saw him there, to just the pictures, it almost looked like he was in pretty good shape, and it almost looked like he gained weight by the time he came out to fight. It was really weird. I don't know what that was. Just a whole weird weird thing. That one. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
But that's probably why I'm not picking Hunt, right? I'll be rooting for Hunt, by the way. My heart's with him.
Well,
but.
like I'll give you an example, then I'll let Ghost finish things off. Donald Cerrone, when he was going to fight Matt Brown, they kept saying, "Oh, but what about the MMAjunkie and what's going on there?" And now he's got to see Dana White. What does he do? He goes out there and smashes Matt Brown. You know. Then the next month
Kennedy.
he loses to George Masvidal. You know. So did it weigh on him on one and not the other? Who knows? You know, did he overtrain for Matt Brown coming off the Story one, or did he overtrain for George Masvidal coming off Brown? You just never know. So it's good to bring up, and I always say that if you don't bet a fight, it's not the end of the world. All right.
Yeah.
Even if you would have won, you at least didn't lose. If you feel something about a fight because of that, then don't bet it. But if you feel like your gut tells you the guy's still going to perform, don't let that also sway you.
I don't mean for this to come off disrespectful, so I hope people understand what I'm trying to say. There's not a lot that goes into Mark Hunt. I don't feel like he's missing jiu-jitsu practices, wrestling practices. Mark Hunt is going out there to knock over and block off. I don't think you need to be in the greatest place for your fight to do that. It's the same strategy he's had in every fight of his career. So I don't think there's just really much to really scramble about.
I agree.
In his head.
Yeah.
You know, the one time I saw real big Mark Hunt improvement was his time at American Top Team.
Yeah.
Because I think at that point they were drilling him on stopping the takedown and getting up from the takedown. So Mark Hunt used to be a guy that was so easy to take down that even McCorkle took him down and submitted him. Whereas now you saw other guys taking him down, but him able to either make it tough for them to even get to that point or get up. And I think in the last few years, once he acquired those skills, he didn't completely polish them up. I think he just said, at heart, I'm a striker. You know, I got some hammers here, and I'm just going to throw these.
Both you guys are perfectly spot on with those points. Yeah, I agree.
So there you have it, Scott. We stayed 3 minutes over. Paid you some respect there. I know we clowned you early on, but how about that for a finish?
Better, yeah.
Are you coming to the Junkie Gathering?
Guys, I'm still working on the wife. She wants to go to Jackson Hole around that time.
Okay.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Ever been there?
No,
It
but
does not sound appeasing, though, by the name.
yeah. How about if she goes there and you come to the Junkie Gathering?
Yeah, I'll try to work that out.
All right, brother. It'd
Well,
be
she
great
wants to take the family, you know.
Oh, I see.
So I gotta go.
Okay. Well, does Jackson Hole close on the rest of the year? It's only open that weekend, or?
No, it's like a big tourist spot. You guys never heard of it?
No, I have heard of it, but I'm saying, why don't you go there like a month later?
I don't know. That's what her mom and everything worked out. You know, so I'll see. I'll still work on her. We'll see.
All right, I guess we'll see it next year.
I'd love to go though.
All right. See you, Scott. Thanks for the call.
Don't
All right,
you feel
guys.
like
Yeah.
as he's talking, there's just this laser that came
Pretty
up on his
much.
forehead. It was like, oh, okay, guys, I got to wrap up.
Just like what was it? Terminator 2, right?
Yeah.
When she's saying, what's the dog's name? Hey, what's wrong with Fluffy? What was the dog's name?
No, his name wasn't Fluffy.
It was
Like
Wolfie.
Wolfie.
Hey,
yeah.
where's Wolfie? And she just goes, Wolfie's fine. And all of a sudden, you see that little blade going through the head.
Was it,
That's Scott's wife going, yeah, say something, bitch.
Wasn't there a Simpsons one where Principal Skinner had that? And he's like, it was fine. He
Yeah.
fell.
Yeah,
Or something like
Fat Tony.
Fat Tony Adams, that's right.
Come on, Scott. You can pull it off. It'd be great to have you. All right. Thanks, Dan, for sticking around.
No worries.
Congrats on all your work. And I do want to clarify something. I think earlier on we said Goes and I groomed you. We didn't groom you. You're a fucking
no.
stud, man. You did it all on your own. I guess it was great that people just got to see how great you were on our show. But I misspoke when I said that. You put in so much work, and I'm really happy for your success.
You didn't misspoke at all. I didn't take it that way at all. I wouldn't be here without guys.
Because grooming
especially
would
like
almost
you,
imply,
man,
like,
so.
oh my God, we're awesome. Let's groom
No,
the
I
show
was
and
just
everything
saying, no,
we
that's
know.
not how I took
and
it.
that's not what it's like.
I consider you guys family and friends. It doesn't matter what outlets we work for now or in the future or anything like that. You guys are friends first, man. So I appreciate y'all having me.
Sweet. Follow him on Twitter at the MMA Analyst or at the MM Analyst. That's the one I prefer. At the MM Analyst.
Yeah, that rolls off the tongue easier, at least for me too. So thank you.
There's another way too that I was practicing had to do with anal, but we'll leave that out. Goes, any parting words? How do you feel about John Rico? Is he one of your favorites? Top 10?
John Rico's top
in Junkie
10.
Nation?
Yeah.
Top 5?
Top 5. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, who are the other 4?
Well, it's got to be Scott from Utah because I'd rather talk to him
than watch Khabib Ferguson.
So he's got to be in that.
And the other 3?
The other 3 have got to be probably Dan, Tom.
Who's left?
Jay came in today. It's got to be Jay and Randy, right?
Randy?
Randy.
Okay. So you're not a big fan of Hal and Mindra and Samal Jam and.
Oh, they're cute. Yeah,
they're cute. All right. All right, folks. We're out of here. We'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Darren Elkins on the show. We also have Jade Bryce will be co-hosting, the former Bellator girl. And Michael Chandler will be in studio.
Easy there with that face.
Lando Banata will also be here. Or not be here, sorry. He'll be on the phone. We may have another surprise guest or two. On Friday's show, we'll have Bibiano Fernandez in studio, Michael Johnson in studio, and Antonio Rogero Noguera in studio. So for Dan and Danny Beckys, John Rico, Goes, Randy, our site coordinator, I keep not giving him love. He's always on fire when he's here. Jay, of course, who was he had transportation duties yesterday. Thank you, Jay. I'm George. Have a great day. Be champions. Oh, and John Morgan.